never know if you don't go. You'll never shine if you don't glow. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. Only shooting stars break the mold.
Welcome to another episode of the NRL Allstars Podcast. Barnesy here, your host of the Allstars Podcast, here for another team preview in the off-season. And, geez, they've been crackers so far. I've enjoyed doing them so much. For this one, we've got one for the West Tigers fans. We're going to do a West Tigers team preview. And we have Mikey Attard from the SC Experience Show and also from the NRL All-Stars Podcast because he is a regular and he'll probably be on once a fortnight during the season as well. Mikey, welcome back on board, mate. A couple of weeks to take a breather and now we've got you back for another team preview.
Yeah, cheers, mate. I literally got the 18th man call up. Someone just got HIA'd. I literally got a call 10 minutes ago and, you know, here I am. So talking about the Tigers today, so a bit of a tough one in the sense of, you know, the round one bye. So it's going to make today's podcast a little bit different. But apart from that, yeah, number 3 of the teams this year. So I think I've hit a PB, a personal best. And I think
trade in the house down.
You probably still have one more from me to come before the season starts. So yeah, keen to get stuck in.
Awesome, mate. Awesome. Well, we are doing the West Tigers. You are hitting mid-season form in the preseason. So we have got a bumper show, but the first thing that we got to look at is the West Tigers team. And I think pretty settled after a few years of a lot of changes. Obviously the big game, they've got Pearce-Paul coming across from the Knights. And I thought Pearce-Paul was pretty good in his time at the Knights. Obviously came over from England with big raps. That's a great gain for them in the back row. I guess Mav Guy came over from your Panthers, Jock Madden from the Broncos, but that's just depth stuff. I don't see them playing big roles. And then with the losses, look, didn't really lose much aside from the mid-season stuff. So De Silva and Galvin being the two big ones, but they went mid-season.
Barnesy.
Oh, mate.
How can you forget Bunty Afoa? Your Warriors guy that you do your team things with you is going to kill you.
I'm having a beer with Anton next weekend, so I actually didn't realise. Funny, Anton has lived in New Zealand and North Sydney and stuff. And I only realised, I talked to him a bit, but I only realised when we started to organise for that team preview that he moved down the road from me in the Southern Shire. So I had no idea. So we're going to watch the trials and do some SuperCoach scoring ourselves next weekend. But he'll kill me now that I've missed out on Bunty. But yes, Bunty Afoa, the great man, is now there. Hopefully he gets a bench role. But overall, I mean, I guess they're probably about the same as they were the second half of last year. Pearce-Paul probably adds a little bit, but you'd also kind of expect them to improve a bit on the roster that they've already got because they've pumped a fair few into it the last few years, particularly from your Panthers with a couple of players. And there's probably a bit of pressure now to produce because I think they've probably gotten a bit of a leave pass the last couple of years while they've had the turnover, while they've had a bit of rebuild and a bit of turmoil as well. And Benji's had a lot of rope. I tend to think that rope's going to be gone now, and they kind of got to produce this year, particularly guys like Jerome Luai who have come in need to have a good season, I reckon. Yeah,
100%. It's going to be an interesting one. I know at the start of this podcast we talk about the range. I haven't fully. They're hard to pick. I still think with how stacked up the other sides are and how close I think the competition will be, I definitely think their range could be fringe top 8, but I personally don't think they're going to make the top 8. I think they could be from anywhere. I'm going to go a large range like you've been doing. I'm going to go from I don't think they'll get the wooden spoon. I'm going to say 16th to 8th, but I would tip more that they're probably going to finish between, if I had to shrink it, I think between a 9 to 12 would be where I'd sit them. I think they'll get better, but I think they'll still struggle against some of the other teams.
I don't know if they'll get better or not. Like
They could. They're hard to judge.
Yeah. No, really. Like that's what I was going to say. This is the largest range I've had, and I hate doing big ranges. And you know, when we get to the Roosters podcast, mate, it'll be like the range will be 1-to-1. So don't worry, I'll get back to shorter ones. But for the last couple, it's been really hard for me. And this is another one where I actually find it like I'm going to do a bit of a compliment sandwich for the West Tigers fans. So they're going to love me initially because Mikey, the start of my range is 8. So I've got them sneaking in.
8?
You said 9. You said 9 to 16.
No, sorry. I meant to say 8 to 17, but I think they'll come more 9.
Right. Okay. Well, I've got them 8, but I've also got them like 17. So
Yeah.
I could see them at their peak, like scraping in and getting into the finals and having a really good year. And I fingers crossed for West Tigers fans that happens for you. I could also see completely other end of the spectrum though, and I just don't know. Probably the end result will probably be in between. They'll probably finish like 11th or 12th or something. But I just find it so hard to guess, and I don't want to sound like that I'm down on them or I'm high on them. I just don't know. And they've got some cattle there. They've got enough good players there to put it together. I think much of it will come down to Benji as well. How good he can coach will be shown this year, because he's got a good enough squad now, and he has to show a lot of improvement over the last few years. And they've been growing towards that. Like, I thought they looked better last year at times than what they have in prior years. So I certainly think they've been, like, a lot of credit to them. They've definitely been going towards it, but they've really got to take the next step now. And you mentioned the biggest thing. It is just so unbelievably competitive at the moment in the NRL, and we're not going to be able to see all the good teams make the top 8. There's going to be good performing teams that just won't make it.
Yeah, 100%. I think the key thing is the Tigers still have a really good spine. Like, I want to say really good, but they've got a good one. They're 1, 6, 7, and 9 if Dewey stays fit. It's a team that could upset some of the bigger teams. So, that is a better spine than some of the other sides. It's just they're going to require the other guys in positions to really step up. And that's why I really rate the Kai Pearce-Paul signing. I think, he's proved to be a bit of a solid defender. And, if he developed a bit more of an attacking upside game, I think they are really going to help the Tigers. But they definitely could be that team that surprises you this year. It's just like I said, our range is always going to be down on teams like this because of how the other teams have games this year. It's just really hard, like, to not have them down a bit just because it's not them, it's the competition. But it's always great to have a healthy competition for fans, and especially for SuperCoach. It just makes it harder for us to pick sides because you're constantly going from A to B. And look, from the start of, when we've done the Panthers one, my team's changed massively, and it's constantly changing week to week. And yes, it's probably due to some part of SuperCoach dropping a bomb on us a couple of weeks ago, a week ago, I should say. But yeah, let's get into the Tigers.
Well, I'll just add before we finish off that I think that the 2 points of concern for me would be their back line. So you've got Skelton, Toa, Terrell May, and Taruva. That's not at their best. All those guys could step up and be much better first graders than we've seen so far. At what we've seen so far, that could be a weaker back line. And then their bench, like, I think they did a good job with Pearce-Paul, like you said, because that's really helped the pack. And the starting pack's pretty solid. But then the bench, it's probably weaker than a lot of other NRL sides, unless they get young guys to step up. But the positive is that, I agree with you on the spine. And I also think that there's still a lot of growth and improvement in some of these guys if Benji can get them there. As far as the draw goes, before we go into the SuperCoach players of interest, you already started to mention it, but it's going to be tough to start with Tigers because they've got the round 1 bye. I will say, though, after that, it's not too bad. They don't play round 12 big bye, but they play the other 2 big bye rounds. But round 2, they go up against the Cowboys, and that's at home. That's a bumper game for them. That's really good. Away versus South isn't too far either, and not a bad game. Away versus the Warriors is a bad travel game for them. And then they've got the Eels away. But then they hit 3 home games in a row versus the Knights, which is a good matchup. The Broncos and Raiders, although the Raiders, I think, might be a neutral stadium, I'm not sure. So it's actually got some good games in there. I actually think if they didn't have that round 1 bye, you'd quite like the Tigers draw for SuperCoach. It's just whether you're going to go, look, I'm not going to care about that round 1 bye and build my side with some Tigers that I know will be back round 2, or whether it's too much for you to hold. And that's kind of what it comes down to. So, I mean, Michael, what side of the fence are you on? Like, if you really like a Tiger, will that round 1 bye put you off?
Currently don't have any. I have 1 cheapie. And that's obviously, if there was enough cheapies, like if we got 4 centre wing cheapies other than that Tigers one, I wouldn't pick it just because you're gambling. We'll get to it, but you want to make sure that the Tiger you're picking is going to play, especially if you're spending more money on them. And a lot can happen before that first game. But I sit on the fence, and I agree with you in the sense that draw is very good. Looking at that draw, I think that's very SuperCoach friendly. There's no real panic stations game until round 7. Like, yeah, maybe Parramatta in round 5 will be tough. The Warriors one could be tough, but I still smell points in both those games, which is all we're kind of looking for SuperCoach. After that, once you get from 7 till 10 is pretty tough. But like you said, I think you can. It's all just depends on team makeup. Example, if you wanted someone like Taylor May as your third centre wing, I don't hate it if you've got another two guys to play. Most years, sometimes you go a gun and then you stack the rest of those settings with cheapies. I think if you can get past that first week and he starts off like, the Tiger pick starts off on fire, you could have a really good month. But I'm just finding with so many options and there's now so many underpriced guys because of the tackles, it's hard for me to spend up even on a mid-ranger or above for the Tigers because I'd rather just wait and see. Like we can wait and see how they go against the Cowboys. If they got flogged by the Cowboys and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm going to head away. But if they go bang against the Cowboys, bang against the Bunnies, then I'd be looking in to bring a Tiger in and you still then have Warriors, Para, Knights. So it's not the worst and then bring in once we see how they start the season and, then the break-evens will come into play. So I think I'm more going on a safer approach. But I think you could have up to one player you're spending on if you wanted to, but not for me. I doubt I will.
I don't at the moment only because of the players that I prefer to have instead. But strategically, I think, and you've got to come up with some pod strategies occasionally in SuperCoach to help you. And I think it's a real pod strategy if you are sold on the Tigers doing well to have one because round 7 onwards it gets tough. And the problem is with what you said, you will get a few games out of it, but your run's half over of those good games. The first 5 games for them are good after their bye. That's what you want them for. So Taylor May is a good example. If you really believe in Taylor May, start with him round 1 because that's by round 7, you're probably going to want to be looking at selling him potentially. And it's also going to get you a really good pod leg up on people. But of course, that has to come through. That Taylor May has to fire in that example, and that's a question you've got to ask yourself. So I wouldn't be totally put off by the buy. I think it's an interesting strategy point when you're looking at it. When we're looking at players, though, it's actually his brother that we're going to start off with, and that's Terrell May, because we're going to talk guns here. Look, can't give enough positive adjectives as to how good he was last year. I knew he would be good, but I didn't know whether he would be 83 points per game good and one of the top players in the game. He absolutely smashed it his first year at the Tigers, but the negative for SuperCoach, Mikey, is his $811,300. I'm seeing a number of people still pay it. And to me, the Payne Haas and Terrell May combo at front row forward is the best part of $1.7 million. I can't possibly pay that. All the positives for May are there. When you look at the numbers, he's got only 2 games where his base power was not 70 plus. That is unreal. Only 2 games where he wasn't 70 plus just in base power. And his base power overall was almost at 81, which was better than Haas's was. He also only had 1 try, which was also a low. And his PPM didn't actually drop with the extra minutes. So numbers-wise, you just look at him and go, well, this guy's foolproof and he's an elite SuperCoach option. The thing that I'm going to throw in there to say that I'm worried about, and I think it is a massive deal, is the reason that Terrell May went so well is that Terrell got career-high minutes, which are ridiculous. 73 minutes a game for a front rower is crazy. Like, nobody plays that. And I will go out a bit further. It would be crazy of Benji to play Terrell May 73 minutes plus a game this year. So he has no upside to improve in his minutes or his output with the PPM. And the only way to go is down unless he starts scoring more tries and getting some attack. I do not believe he'll play 73 minutes a game. I just can't believe that a coach and a club will run a front row into the ground like that when it's such a hard job in the middle. So to me, I actually think he could be as low as 60 minutes a game, if not maybe 65. And that still gives him elite scoring, but you could be looking at like a 70 to 72 instead of an 83 that you're paying for. And that's a massive deal when you're investing it in your front row at 811,000 when he's not even going to play round 1.
I think, look, this is going to sound very repetitive for me, but I think if he started at round 1, there would be a conversation where I'd consider starting over Haas. Huge call, but that thought would cross my mind. Whether or not I do it, it's a different story. Now, the issue is you can't have 2 of them, but all of us will be wanting to get two of them at one stage. So we'll get to look. But when you're looking at it, kind of disagreeing to what you said, I think he can keep up the minutes. He does have a big motor. We mentioned the lack of the punch they have off the bench. They're going to require him to play big minutes. Whether or not that's from the start, I can agree with that. Maybe they ease in, but there's every chance that he just comes in and just firing. Based off all this change, he's actually underpriced. Realistically, based off what he achieved last year, he should be valued at $56,000 more. His average was 83 last year, but based off the new stats, it would have actually been 88.7. So he's with all those extra tackles and all that, it really suits him. So if we're talking about people that are underpriced and benefit, we do have to highlight that he's a guy that will benefit from, the uptick in tackles and stuff. Nonetheless,
that's a really fair point, and I forgot to mention that. Very good one, and that can offset part of his minutes reduction if that happens. And by the way, I'm not saying that he can't play the minutes. 100% he can. It's just a matter of whether the Tigers and Benji will play him those minutes.
Exactly. And then you'd be playing, and then if you're taking him over Payne Haas, and then I have to hard disagree on, because if you put them two up against each other, what disadvantages Terrell is not only that Payne Haas is also going to benefit, scored a bit more, it's a fact that one of them has a bye. So in 5 weeks, if they both play the minutes they're intended to, Payne Haas is going to score more. So that's unfortunately what disadvantages him. I agree with you. I don't think you can have both. Even with the amount of cheapies or low middies we're going to have, I think that money is better pumped into, grabbing another one of these second roles at 600 to 700K, grab another center who's going to benefit. Like, I'd prefer to do that than sticking both, mainly because he starts with that bye. That draw is going to benefit someone like Terrell. He could gain some, basically, some attack to go with those scores. I wouldn't be surprised if he scored a try in that first 5 of his first games. But it could be a super ballsy pod move, but the fact that just how much he costs and Payne Haas costs, it puts you in this dilemma. But if, that's what will create the opportunity if you had the balls to do it. Like, it could work spending both the money on those front rows. I guess let's talk about the flip side, the positive. If you were to do that, you don't have to worry about your front row for the rest of the year. Those two main positions are taken up. That position's done. Front row's a headache. I probably would then go a little bit chill. I guess you'd obviously need to start with a 300K guy to cover not having Terrell for the first game, but
Colquhoun fits that as well.
Yeah, Colquhoun or even a Paseka suit it. But, there is a world where that strategy could work, but you'd have to have a look at how bad your team hits with and without that.
And on the positive side as well, 2 of May's 3 biggest scores in his career have been against his first 2 opposition, the Cows and the South Sydney Rabbitohs. 123 points is his highest, 123 score, and that was against Souths. 116, I think, is his 4th highest score, I should say, and that was against the Cowboys.
And he's 8% owned, Barnesy. That surprises me a little bit. That's higher than I thought.
Doesn't surprise me because I think, like you said, more on Payne Haas. But I will say, if you want to put up an argument and say Terrell May is going to be better than Payne is, then I wouldn't dispute you if that's what you feel. It's a fair call because he's shown enough last year that he can be. But I just don't think you can have both. I think that both really handicaps your side too much in areas that you need that point scoring upside with the fullbacks and the halves and so forth. So
unless you don't go a gun half, if you decide that, hey, I don't think the halfback's going to be as good, you could go a double cheapie strategy, which I wouldn't do, but that is one way you could accommodate a double prop, which realistically, if the scoring impacts us more than what we think, that could work for the start.
But
if the they both go bang.
Could, but what I would say as a counter is, if that's the way the scoring goes and it is a hard impact on the halves, it means that the centre wings have gained a lot of upside. And I would rather put that money in your centre wing. And the builds that I've seen with Payne Haas and Terrell May both starting, I haven't seen strong centre wings in any of those build types because it's just been too difficult to do, right? Like, you've got at least 2 500K fullbacks, probably 1 premium fullback, at least 1 premium centre wing. And then all of a sudden, even if you go short in your halves, it's just you don't have a lot of money.
I think with the way my team build is right now, if I was to drop Cleary down to Ethan Sanders, I could still have Latrell, Herbie, one of Holmes and Nero, and have the 2 props, but I'd be cutting a halfback. So there is a world where you could go 2 gun props and the centers, but yeah, like you said, the more I think about it, that could work, but it's it's a big gamble.
I think it is too. And I think it's also, you can wait and see what his minutes look like at the start. And one thing that I will say about the draw to finish on Terrell is it doesn't matter too much for him. So even though, like, if you got to round sort of 4 or 5 and go, well, their draw's going to go hard in a couple of weeks, I don't really want to get Terrell May as a centre. Getting a front row or a middle player doesn't really make any difference at all. He's still going to perform against those tougher sides. So I think that there's that opportunity to buy him later. But we do need to talk about his brother, Terrell May. He's been more popular than what I expected. I think people are looking at him as a pod. 617,400. He's at a decent price. He averaged 70 points a game last year, but he only played 7 games. The year before, he averaged 45 points a game and only played 8 games. The only time that we've really got a lot of games into him to look at is 2022, where he played 20 games and started them all and scored 64 points per game. So to me, that's probably where he's at. If you have a look at the averages, just on the uptick of stats with the last touch going over to assists, he's maybe a couple of points better, but it's not a huge difference. So maybe you're looking at a 66, 67 average. It's still probably not a 70-plus average that he's priced at. Now, if it's close enough or you think that he's going to go on a good run, Mikey, that shouldn't matter too much. I've got to say, though, his power has almost doubled from his prior year when you look at last year's performance. So his BP was up overall, and whether he can maintain that or keep going, he might. That's going to be the question. I think one of the things I didn't mention with his brother that I'm going to bring up with Taylor is, to me, both of them are victim of not just the buy, but the other options available. Less so for May because he's an elite, but I guess I could argue, with Terrell May, I should say, because with Terrell, I could argue, well, 150k less for a Kalamatangi, you could get like for like. I could get close enough on a Hopgood for 300,000 less, but it's less of an argument. But when you get to Taylor May, you go, wow. Like, I could get Brian Toto for 30k less. I could go up to an Eero for 70k more that I could find. I could go to a Cobbo, who I think is going to go well on the wing. There's just, like, I could list 20 guys. So it is just so competitive in the centre wing this year, Mikey, to get someone like a Taylor that we're not sure of how good he'll be, and he's got the round 1 buy as well.
I hate it when I do this. The more I think about it, I think he's a genuine option. Like, the thing is, when you look at it, they have one of the better draws. What's making you sleep on him is the fact that they have that buy first. But those first 2 games, like, he could go massive. And just to correct on one thing, you said, Barnesy, he actually benefited one of the most from the stat changes. Yeah, so he should have been $100,000 more.
You sure you're not looking at Stafford Toa, the other centre? Because we're going to talk about him.
I'm looking at, shout out to Aman. I'm using Aman's stats. He's pretty good a day ago. So he was priced at a 63.2, but his new average would have been 74. So he's $100,000 price difference. He should have been $700,000. He benefits massively. He's also on their left side, their more dominant attacking side. Like, to be honest with you, I reckon I'd start with him if they didn't have a buy round 1. But you're right. Someone like Taylor, I think if you were keen on him, probably have to get him at round 1 because I'd want Cowboy South.
Yeah.
And if I get it wrong, like you said, all the options that you said, if you got it wrong, you can move him. You can, but if I was picking him, I'd be comfortable picking him at centre number 3. For me, it'd be someone I would be taking him over someone like Latrell, and I'd have to have a hard think about that. It's something I will have a hard think about. Like, I think he's an option, but it'd have to be maybe a third centre wing. But I could see a world where it works. Maybe his expectations of what he done last year, like now he's got to repeat it from round 1. But then you could also say he's now had a full preseason. Taylor and Terrell have always said that they wanted to play together. Their brothers have spent a full preseason. They're only going to get better. Like, even when he was at the Panthers, when I was watching him in, the younger grades, I was like, this kid's going to be an absolute weapon. And he was. Like, all that off-field drama maybe put a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. But in the end of the day, we're here to talk Supercoach. And
we're here to win 50k, mate.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter about what they're doing off the field if you can get 50k.
Option. I know I said at the start of this season I won't start with the Tiger at that price, but I will have a hard consideration because although we might say it might be a little bit popular, he is only at 5.2%.
Yeah, he's still pod. I think that the groundswell has started to talk him up a bit. He's been going up. I've got to defend my numbers here, though, because, like, this is what's happened, right? You mentioned he's at 63 something on his average price, where he's priced at. He actually had a 70 average last year. So SuperCoach is actually...
so it's 4, yeah.
So it is 3 or 4 points.
But he's just priced at a 63.
But he's
That's
priced,
all it is.
they've priced him low. Yeah. So they've given him a price adjustment because they've decided that 7 games wasn't enough, which I'm surprised about, but that's what's happened. So I'm not off my rocker. It was 3 or 4 points.
No.
It's just that he's at 70-point average last year, but they priced him at 63 for some reason.
Which then presents value to go with the upside. So the only thing, it's a real tough one. But you would, if you're getting him, you would really want to bank that he comes away with something big from the Cowboys, the 2 and 3 fixtures to make up for the bye. If you come across and he goes bang, bang, and, even if he's not scoring tries, he can hold a pretty good average and you'll grab him. Because if he goes bang on that, everyone's going to bring him in for that round 4. So that's how you'd get your one step up. And then, like you said before, Barnesy, if you were to get him late, you miss out on those 2 really good matchups where, I think his oppositions against the Cowboys is left the right one. I think they're pretty decent matchups just off the top of my head with those first 2 fixtures.
Yeah, you can't get him late. Like the 2 things that I would say to people if you want to buy Terrell May, and I wouldn't talk anyone out of it as a pod move, is you've got to start with him. You can't get him in a few weeks later. And you're going to have to remember that you're starting with somebody to replace him in round 1, which I don't mind if you start with a guy that gives you 35 or 40 points that week. That's going to happen at centre wing anyway. It just puts a bit more pressure on your other centre wings to deliver, but that's fine. But you've got to start with him if you're going to do it. Another West Tigers back is Buller, who was a gun last year. He's priced at 606,900, and he's different to the May brothers because even though he had a good season, I think that there's just no argument where I could consider starting him. And I never rule guys out that people believe in because I always feel like that anyone can go well and it's up to each SuperCoach to decide for themselves. But I'm ruling Buller out for me. If I saw him in teams, I would tell people not to do it. 62 average last year, 58, 57 the years before. He does need to perform. It is a bit of a contract year because he's got an option, I believe, and he's negotiating for a longer term deal. But when I looked at the numbers, he had 0 tons and 5 80-plus games out of 18, which is not very good for a fullback, let alone one that you're paying $606,000 for. So to me, he's a no-brainer. Leave him out. Falongo's better at $100K cheaper. You've got Kinney at even more than that cheaper, and he's better as an option. And then you've got all the elite guys that, even Kalen Ponga's the same price as him. And as much as Ponga might fall off or whatever, he's still going to be a better purchase than Buller is. So I'm totally against Buller as an option. The Mays, great. Yeah, they'll be good. But Buller, can you see a world where you get him other than in the draft league, perhaps?
No, I think like yourself, the only ones I'm interested in are the May brothers. But I think there's a world where you can say that, you wouldn't be surprised. Like I couldn't go anywhere near him just because of the plethora of options. But there'd be a world where he come out and he scores a ton against the Cowboys and then follows it up with a 9. And then you'd be looking at him like there is a world where I think against it, like, that he has those games where he can put 2 to 3 tries together. Like he done it last year. He does have a big score on him. But that's probably why I would prefer him in draft. If you were towards the back end of the pick and you miss out on some of these gun fullbacks, I could entertain either having him in the flex in draft. Like that I could definitely entertain. But I'm not saying there's a world where that doesn't work, but who are you missing out to do it? Like it's just that's what makes it tough. And you're then going into the first round without an extra fullback. So potentially you could
131-point career high against the Cowboys. So there you go.
Another
guy could
ton up against the Cowboys, but
you know what? Drinkwater will ton up against them too, though. So just buy Drinkwater.
They'll be battling for who can score higher.
Too many other options. Off our guns and now onto the mistake or controversial hot take for the podcast. You cannot touch Jerome Luai, and I don't care that he's got some improvement in him. I just don't think it's an option at all. 465,700 is cheap, and he is on a 48 average from last year, and the years prior he's been 59, 58, 56. So he has to improve, Mikey. There's going to be value there. There might even be 10 points of value, but he's not a gun, so you're not getting enough out of having him there as far as scoring, and you're probably going to need to play him. And I just think when you're looking at his scores last year, like he's got 1 ton in him, and he's got games throughout the year that are sub 30, like you're talking about a good chunk, like 1 in 5 games is sub 30 and almost sub 20 in 1 in 5 actually. Like he's got scores of 19, 19, 21, 29, 22. It's too much. Too many low scores. He went 60 plus 24% of his games. There is an argument though, because we've got to look at both sides of this, Mikey, that he does have 10 points of value, that he's now adjusted to the role at the Tigers, which he found difficult to do by his own admission before. And he's now going to play more of a natural role to him instead of trying to fit in, which is going to get him back to his best. That argument's there. And look, it's valid. I'm not going to say someone is wrong about that. Maybe that happens. I just don't believe it, but I could see that it happens and someone ends up with a bit of value there. But you just got to remember in SuperCoach what that value looks like. And the value is probably going to look like 57 to 58 points a game. And it's going to have some low ones in there that you're definitely going to start him for. And I guess that's the issue for me. Even if all the nice things come to fruition and he is better and he is adjusted, the bottom line is that you're still going to be starting a subpar SuperCoach option.
Yeah, agreed to that point. I guess the main thing that could make him an option, like he's only 1.8% owned, is just the fact that 5'8", and I know you agree with me, that 5'8" position is absolutely dog poo. It's so bad. And a lot of us, like yourself, like I got to the point where I'm like, oh, if Dylan Brown gets you, I'm going to go for him. But now I'm like, you know what? I've got double such a better team. Yeah, well, I don't know if I can go to that point, but I've got Cody Walker in at the moment just because of the price. Like, I'm not saying he's going to be good, but I'm just hoping Pezzett can be a playable option. Pezzett's a playable option, then all of a sudden someone like Luai might be all right. We've seen Luai in the past, that one season where he stepped up when Clear wasn't there, and he was amazing. Apart from that, the only other time he was relevant was when he came in as a cheapie. So, look, there was all the stats are telling you that it's not going to work, but if the Tigers are to make the top 8, you're probably hoping it is off the back of him. The price isn't bad, but I think I would just prefer to spend 65 less K and get Cody Walker or something on, or even do something like you're doing in double cheapie. But I do agree, if you did want to roll the dice in that 5'8" position, you could. But I think one thing to mention is you probably can only afford to take one guy from the Tigers just because they have that buy.
Oh, because of the buy, yeah. And look, it's one of those things where if you're happy to cop the Luai poor scores for the upside, then why not save money and just cop those poor scores from somebody else? And Cody Walker's a good example. I can't believe that Cody Walker is cheaper, than Jerome Luai. You're going to save the best part of $70,000.
And look at his edge compared to Luai's.
And his edge is lethal, and then you go one step further, right? I had Cody Walker, and I was looking for guys around the price point of Luai, and I ended up going, you know what? Am I really going to get much less out of starting Pezzett compared to these guys at, $200K less? And then I went a bit further and said, well, who else is there? TMM at the Warriors. He went great last year. Now, I don't think he can replicate it, but at 235,000, I don't really care because, I'm probably going to get similar scores to a Luai. And to be able to put 230,000 somewhere else, it's a massive deal for round 1. So I guess as a position, you got to review some of these moves as well and say, as a position, can I get similar just spending a lot less? Can I get similar elsewhere if I don't care about the position? Or where can I get elite points from and is it worth it? And you're not going to get either from Luai. To me, you just go up or you go all the way down with him. And I'm not going to concentrate on Luai any more than that. I think in real life, Mikey, for Tigers fans, he will have a better year. And I'm not saying he's bad, but for SuperCoach, I'll finish on one number, 16. That was his putrid raw base last year. 16 points is awful. Like the bottom of the league in SuperCoach raw base, Jerome Luai, 16 a game in 80 minutes. I can't do it. Fallen guns. This is a guy I do really like, and I actually think that he's a real low-key pod option. Adam Dewey, absolutely love him in the halves and with his hand on the ball. And 556,000, so affordable, and it's a price point that I think that you can easily buy him at and not be playing him round 1 and not really get too hurt. So I'm all aboard the Dewey train if somebody decides that they want to start with him. I think it's probably one of the better options as far as the Tigers go. And he's a halfback only. So, I mean, if you don't want to spend up on a halfback, then you could look at the lower price option of Dewey. And low key, I actually think that he would be better at the same price point as what a Mitchell Moses will be. And you'll be a massive pod. I love the draw that he's got as well. And provided he's goal kicking, to me, he actually looks really good. 4 full games at 7 last year that we could see was a 79.5 average. His base power is excellent for a number 7. And he's got a 50s floor, basically, if he is goal kicking. So to me, Dewey's a forgotten tiger. Like, people will yell at me for hating Luai and Buller and saying there's not many options. But, mate, just listen to me talk about Dewey. I could do it for hours.
Yeah, 1% ownership too. I think, like, I'd probably say it's a play that I'd want to do later. Like, he's the kind of guy I want to own later. But you bring up a good point. Like, he's got a great draw to start with, so that could work. It could work. Like, there are some of these Tigers plays that they're gonna be for the Brave. But the Brave could definitely come out on top here. And, we've seen what Dewey's capable of when he stays fit. I guess that's probably the negative side to the argument is staying fit. But he'll most likely kick goals. If they can start the season on fire, then, there's some upside, especially for someone like Dewey. And he didn't lose too many points from the changes of, like, the stats.
No, I was about to say that he stayed pretty flat. Whereas
he did play some games in lock too. So that's probably where he would have gained more benefit. So because he played multiple positions last year, those stats might be inaccurate.
But I'll tell you something else. Like, it's one of those things that it's normally a risk if somebody can, like, lose their spot. To me, it's actually upside for Dewey, because if you get like 2 or 3 games in and Benji Marshall goes, I'm going to move him back to 13, that's phenomenal. Like, you take that, and he's going to end up with the dual a few weeks later too, and you're going to have a dual halfback second rower. Like, I only see upside for Dewey, really. And I think that there's been a lot of people in the SuperCoach community that have gone, look, I'm gun-shy on starting Cleary. I'm thinking about Hines, or I'm into him, but I'm a bit worried. And they're looking at guys like Mitchell Moses and Jerome Hughes. And Jerome Hughes is someone who, under the new scoring, loses a lot of points. And I think Dewey's a forgotten guy. And that could be the answer for a lot of teams that don't want to spend up. So I think it's definitely an option. A guy that's a fallen gun that I don't think is an option at all is Api Coruscant, 541,900. He actually finished the season with 5 games, Mikey, playing 80 minutes, which gave him a 65 average. If anything, that just hurt his price point. Talon De Silva obviously went mid-season, but he still wasn't playing the full 80 minutes like as soon as Talon left, and I don't think that he's going to be an 80-minute player anymore. So to me, he's going to gain in some tackles, but his base has been going down for a few years, and a base in the 30s is pretty poor for a guy that can make a lot of tackles, and he's just not going to get the minutes. So at that price point, let's just talk about it. 50k less plus, you're going to get a Reece Robson, and if you go up a little bit, like 60k, you're going to get a Harry Grant. So it's all red crosses for me with Api Coruscant, and I don't believe he's going to come back to gun status this year.
Yeah, I agree. The price is right, but he's someone that you just wait and see. And if his minutes and role, like, say all of a sudden he's kicking goals and, he is playing 80 minutes because the Tigers need him to, then all of a sudden he becomes an option. But with the stat changes, I think, it's a lot more appealing to start with guys like Harry Grant and Blake Brayley. I know I switched my mold up, but at the same time, there's a lot of these guys like Reed Marnie, depending
Robson,
on...
mate. It's all
Robson. Yep. Like there's... And Haywood even now.
Haywood
like
too,
there
yeah.
is that. That's what kills an option like him, and the fact he doesn't play round 1. Like I know someone like Haywood doesn't play round 2, but he's like 100, or he's a couple 100k cheaper.
200k almost.
Yeah, 200k, almost 200k cheaper. So, this is what rules out some of these guys. Is just there's so much of a stack of option. Why would you want to entertain and increase your risk when you can go the safer approach and maybe take risks in a more open position? So. Definitely an option for later, like maybe someone I keep an eye on depending on role, because he does have the capability of being a great SuperCoach player, but yeah, not from round 1.
I actually don't even think he's going to come good later. Like he
could, but like I'm just saying.
Oh no! Yeah. No,
if
I'm not saying
role
there's
is
no
different
way.
to what we believe, and the Tigers actually are playing good footy, their spine are going to benefit in SuperCoach. But like I said, I don't think so. But I'll be keeping an eye.
55 points a game. 69 minutes a game. I actually think that he'll be 50 points a game and 62 minutes a game or something.
I think that'd be probably a realistic.
Yeah, just too many other options for me. And even in draft, I'd be a little bit worried about Api. He's 33 years old. A little bloke like him, 33 years old, worrying on through that sort of NRL career, it's going to take its toll. Rising Guns. Skelton. People that say I don't like the West Tigers, guys, I started with Skelton last year, okay? I was all aboard him, and he ruined me, and I had to trade him, and I almost bought him back again. He is only 494,200. He's 5 points underpriced, just accounting for the games where he was injured. He went down a number of times because of, I think it was hamstring injuries, and that's helped with his price point immensely. He is a try scorer. He is a guy that has shown good base power before. We didn't see the base power last year from Skelton. He didn't show what he did at the Bulldogs as a base power guy on the wing like a Brian Toto type of clone. He only had 26 raw base. He was struggling a bit, 40 base power, which isn't bad. It's okay, but we thought it would be a lot better. Try scoring wise, though, he scored a mountain of tries. The problem was that when he was scoring those tries, he wasn't scoring that well overall. So his try-scoring games were 62 and 65 points the first 2 rounds, pretty low with a try. 66 points, 57 points with a try. 109 was his big game with 2 tries. 2 tries for 63 points, 66 points and 58 points. He did not break into the 70-plus region in any of his try-scoring games except for 1. And that's just really not good enough. But at the same time, they do have a good draw. He's sub 500,000. He's an Uber pod, and it was his first full year of first grade. So, can he get better? And if he can, he's a real try scorer.
Yeah, agreed. I've seen some of the predicted sides. I don't know I think he spots him not
It
up
is in
for
jeopardy.
grabs, but it's in contention because you've got Luke Lally, I think, who's signed a contract to go somewhere, but he's really pushing for that spot, and so is Makasini. So I guess the fact that I think people do forget that Skelton's still around. So that's why right now I do have one of those Tigers cheapie, but I know I'm probably going to have to get rid of him. I want to watch a few trials and then make decisions, but it's going to make it hard. But, personally, I do like Skelton too. Loved him at the Dogs, but being selfish as a SuperCoach point of view, I hope he loses his spot because I really need another cheapie, and I'm sure so do the rest of us. But that would also worry about me because I think if the Tigers did start poor and they weren't playing well and these wingers are going nuts in the cup, they will come up for his spot. And I think Taruva would be a touch ahead of Skelton. That's just me. Maybe that's my Panthers cap on.
Well, Taruva would be on the other side, though.
Correct.
They're
And it obviously depend what side the other wingers play. But yeah, that's what would, boring yet again for me, but someone to have a look later. But he could be someone that really benefits from that early draw. The wingers probably are going to, but yeah.
Well, I'll throw Taruva in that discussion as well. He's 460,000 and a noted try scorer. But can I just say, he had 9 tries in his first 9 rounds, 1 try in his last 11 rounds. That is ridiculous for a guy that
someone you want to have
tries.
for a little lump and then piss him off.
Yeah, very similar to Skelton, though, which is why it's hard to do anything with Taruva because even when he scores tries, it's not necessarily big enough, and he should have a bigger base power than what he does. The rising gun that I am really keen to watch, I can't start with, but I'm super keen to watch, and I reckon I might have a cracking draft, is Samuela Fainu. Fainu is a guy that I think is a prototypical back rower. I really, really like him as a prospect. I have for 3 or 4 years, and he had 53 points a game in 2024. I thought that he was going to go to 60 plus last year, but it was only a 52 average. He actually dropped a point a game. Now, that does include a game where he only played 34 minutes and got hurt, which only was a 24-point score, but it doesn't have that much of a difference. When you have a look at it, it's interesting numbers to read because the second half of the season, round 16 onwards, he averaged 63 with 44 raw base. 44 raw base for an edge back rower is awesome. And then he's obviously got the power stats on top. So 63 average, that's 10 points better than where he's at, and he's at gun status. And at around 500k mark, it's actually decent value. So, he's young enough where probably the second half of last year is what you'll get. And again, there's too many guys in the second row for me to do it. But I'll just say, shout out to Samuela. I would not be surprised if he ends up being a 63-point guy and being better than some more fancied options at the start of this year in second row forward, which is why I've got him on a late pick for draft.
I also think that he could be a classic option as we go on, especially if he goes bang round 2 and 3 and has a very low break even. There's a lot of mid-ranges this year in the second row. So if you get one wrong, you might be able to just push towards him. let's just say Lecker absolutely bombs it and you had Lecker Alasima, he's almost a straight switch. So he's someone that the price is very valuable because, like you, I believe he has a lot of potential and as a friendly game for SuperCoach. A lot of these guys will all depend on the Tigers' form. So definitely someone to add into your watch list. But yeah, I like the draft shout. Definitely a sneaky one to nab on your bench.
See who I like more as like an Uber pod, and now we're on to our pods talk. There's two guys at the Tigers pod talk. PP Pearce-Paul, 604,500. I think that a lot of people say the same thing as what I think about him. He looks like he's got so much potential to get more offloads, to get more attack, and you're just kind of waiting for him to do it. He did it in the Super League. I feel like he's ready now to progress to that in the NRL. He's only got 2 tries last season, which he's priced on, which looks low to me. He went 89 and 96 in those 2 games he scored his lone tries. That's what you want to see. Those big scores just from getting the 1 try. Raw base of 50, almost 5 points in offload and 3 in tackle break, gives you a 58 floor. But you kind of feel like I said, those 5 points in offloads could easily go to 7. The tackle breaks could go from 3 to 6. And then all of a sudden, you got a guy that's worth like 100K more. Paul, I think, deserves a lot more look in SuperCoach and what people are giving him. 54 points per game last year. I could see him go 65 plus. I could see him being a really good buy for the Tigers. I think that he's got to score more tries than what he did last year. And by the way, I said that he scored 2 tries.
And just to add to that, with the stats change, he's priced at a 61.8, but with the new average, he would actually be in 67.4. So he's $54,000 underpriced to go with that already. Like, he's definitely at that price point. He's someone that I probably would have loved to go on, an Isaac Yeo, a Kai Pearce-Paul, but from the start, I can't have too many, if any of these guys. So, but I rate it. Like, if Benji gives him a license to throw that offload, it looked like the way he was coach at the Knights. They didn't want him to. So if he can let that offload go and you add that to already under the pricing, like, he could be a sneaky find with a base. You just want to find that attacking upside because there is a shitload of options in the second row. We're sport for choice right now. And I think, he's definitely, like, I know I've said there's a lot of guys we're going to keep an eye on, but unfortunately, when we're going to talk about the team that's got to buy first, we're going to have more than the other sides. But if we went on someone that I think you could buy and hold in your team for most of the season, it's Kai Pearce-Paul. And he's going to be a guy, if he stays fit, as soon as that first buy rolls around, you'll be looking for someone like him. I think he will be amazing for those buy rounds. So,
very
keen on
special.
him. Yeah.
Draft special.
I'd have him high up on the list. If all those big second rowers go first and you want a sneaky option that you probably get that people overlook, it's Kai Pearce-Paul for sure.
Love the call. It's just an unfortunate year where you've got probably an underpriced Angus Crichton, a really cheap David Fafita. And the guys like Lecker Halasima, if he starts, he didn't start his games last year, so he's super underpriced. It's just a second row year as far as the riches that we've got there to pick from. Look, Stafford Toa. Stafford is one of the biggest upticks under the new scoring system because he's got a mountain of last touches. So 6 last touches last year that would have been converted into try assist, line break assist, is almost 1 in 3 games for him with an extra TSLBA. 5 points per game right there, plus the extras. He's going to have a big uptick in stats. If you look at the season splits as well, it's pretty different, much like some of his teammates, actually. So there might be a bit of a trend there. But, like, he started off the season averaging 60 points a game in the first third, rounds 1 to 9. Rounds 19 to 27, he came home averaging 32 points a game. So it goes to show, how low over a period of time or how well over a period of time he could run. And a lot of that's due to tries. You look at the first month of footy, or actually the first 5 weeks, the Tigers had the first bye last year as well. And then they came out and he scored a try, no try, double, try. So 5 tries in his first 5 games. And his first 5-week average was great aside from 1 game. So had a 31-point game where he didn't score. The 4 games where he did score tries, he was a 75-plus average. So he's got that potential, and then he's got the extra try scoring on top where you can get half a dozen points there for free. He's very cheap. It's a little bit like my last show with Dave Campbell from the SuperCoach show. We were talking about his Dragons, and he reminds me a lot of Moses Suli. because Moses Sully and Stafford To'a are both really underpriced under the new system. They're both in the 400s for price point, and they're both guys that look scary if you start with them on name value, but on actual numbers could have really good starts to the season.
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's not a bad price at all. I think a lot of us, like, if a lot of these cheapies don't get named, we'll be looking for a guy around that price. For him a touch cheaper, but just to add to what you said, based on his price, he would have been an extra 87,000 on top of his price. So
much value.
9 points, his average would have increased from a 49.5 to a 58.5. So it is huge. Like, to be honest, like, both the centers are appealing. He's going to stay super low owned, especially compared to Taylor. Whether or not it's going to work that you just take these guys, but if there are points in the Tigers and you look at those early games, he's definitely someone that I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't go up at a decent amount of value just from the start, because those two games are great, like they are. And compared to, you could jot him in at a fourth slot instead of having Taylor May. That's an extra 130K you could still do. So if you still had a build where you were pumping into your centre wing and you had three centres that you're happy with, then you play cheapy for the first week and you Stafford on the bench, that could work. That's what's interesting about this year in the changes. There's a lot of way that you can do the builds, and depending on how big of an impact it is, will depend, like, whether or not it benefits stacking the centers or whether it benefits putting a bit more, instead of having the cheaper middies, putting a bit more in money into these 600K second rollers that could provide a bit more stability. It's interesting how it's all flipped. Like, I currently don't have a fullback or a halfback in my flex, which is weird. I've changed many builds, but
wow,
it's juicy. I'm just thinking, you know what? Just go for something. I know I'm the kind of player that can recover, so I want to try and harp into this.
I like the courage. I admire it. We also don't know whether Stafford To'a will even win a spot. So this is the thing.
That's also a great point. I think he will, but it is also another solid point. So
we are going to talk about a few cheapies and mids as well. But before we do, I just have to quickly mention the fantastic sponsor of the NRL Allstars Podcast in oneworldcourier.com.au. Go One World Courier today. If you or the business that you work for has any freight or shipping needs, and they have a fantastic website and system in place to help you out and give you the best prices, all you need to do is sign up for a free account, and you can go and log in. When you do, it'll say, how did you hear about us? Put NRL Allstars Podcast down there, and they'll know that you came from this show, and they'll take great care of you with some great rates to start with on a new account. But basically, you can pop in whatever you want to send and where you want to send it to, and then they'll tell you all the different carriers that you've got that you can choose from, whether it's TNT, Ozpost, or whoever, and all the prices. And you just choose whoever you want to ship it with, and then they take care of the rest. It's a great service, and they are a fantastic supporter of the All-Stars Podcast. So if you do send anything and you want to support the show, then support the show just by jumping on our sponsor, oneworldcourier.com.au. Three cheapies to talk about, Mikey. Makasini and Luai. Have I pronounced that correctly? Around about.
Well, I'd be just as bad as your pronunciation, Barnesy, if it's bad.
Well, 235 and 200K, they're both vying for wing spots, maybe centre spot. So we're not going to know. And this is the thing, like, can you afford to start with one of them? Like, there's no way you could start with both. But could you just start with one of them, not knowing whether they're going to be there round two or not?
It depends on what that allows your team to do. Like, if there's someone that, example, you wanted someone like Toby Couchman, or you wanted to stack, and that allows you to have a Herbie and a Nero, then I'd be considering it. But I'd be wanting to pick the one that I believe is in favour. So this weekend, the fact that they're both named in the trials, I probably think that they're not going to start, because I think it's the Tigers' first trial. That probably means that they might be slightly out of favour, but we'll see with the next trial that's named. But whoever you think is ahead, you could take a gamble on one. And I think at some point, the Tigers will lose an amount of games where they'll need to make changes. Terrell Skelton's pretty injury prone. I think as long as you pick the one guy, I think one of them will come in at some point. We've seen in previous seasons, I know a lot of us, I'm included, I hate to put someone in my team that doesn't start. But this year, if it allows me to take an extra gun that's undervalued, then I might be reluctant to do it, rather than if I then have to shed one of my guns to then spend an extra 200 to get someone that could just do his crap, then, or that might not score us, or maybe I'm better off with just, I wouldn't go enough. I want to pick someone that I believe is going to make the team at some point. And that's why you just got to kind of, the difference is 10K. And right now I've got Makasini in there because I need that 10K. So It just depends. It depends on the build. Like, I'd prefer not to do it, but I'm thinking with the amount of guns I fit into my side currently that I will start with one. Unless we...
I think that's fine though. Like I got to be honest. Like probably every second year I end up with somebody in my team for round one who I think will play down the track but isn't playing right now. And I think that's the way to do it. Like, and if you're going to have enough, why not put one there that you might have to waste a trade on later on because you think they're going to come in at some point. So I think Makasini there is fine as long as you don't have other nuffs in your team and it's not like 3 guys not playing round one. And you got enough spots in your centre wing to cover for that, and then you also don't have to burn the trade later. I actually think that they won't have young guys in the side round one at all, like Makasini or Lali, because to me, what I said at the start of the podcast about my expectations for the Tigers this year, I think that Benji's going to feel that, and I think there'll be internal discussions that, you know, they need to try and aim for the finals this year, and they're winning games is it. You know, they've developed enough the last few years, it's time to win. And if you're winning games, you're going with the known commodities and the guys that you know can perform for you from day one. And then you bring in the young guys maybe later on for injuries or if other guys aren't performing or whatever. So I think that the more veteran guys are going to get the crack for round one, and maybe down the track it's a Makasini or something. So yeah, that's my take. But we do have the biggest player for the Tigers left to mention in this cheapie chat, and that is future immortal Royce Hunt. Certainly a SuperCoach immortal in the trap division, because everybody has had big Royce at times. Everybody's been carried away by the bicep size and the squat numbers, and he has always looked like the strongest man in league for several years, even at Cronulla, and never produced SuperCoach relevant results. Can I just tell you, like, if everyone wants to look at how amazing this SuperCoach performance is with Royce Hunt, like his performances, you got to remember, everyone, we have thought for 5 years Royce Hunt was going to break out with extra minutes, me included, because he's got this big PPM. In that last 4 years, he's gone 40 points, 33 points, 25 points, 22 points, and his minutes haven't varied heaps. So we were actually right in the complete reverse. He has gone the complete opposite direction to how we thought he would have gone all of the last 4 seasons. Surely, Mikey, there is no way anyone could get on him, although I know that somebody will look at him and go, Barnesy, 22 points a game he's priced at. He did 40 back in 2022. Even 2023 at 33, Mikey's 11 points of value. And as a front rower at base price, like, maybe this is a year.
No way. I didn't get on last year because I thought he was going to be a bit of a trap, and I prefer to stay away from these traps. But I think just with the makeup this year, like if you wanted to spend the money, there's definitely some really good 300k options. Like you can have Paseka and Colquhoun, and Flegler looked good on his return last night in that trial. You could take, I know it's a bit riskier, but I'd prefer to take that part. Look, personally, with the way my build's going, I've been listening to a lot, and I know you agree, Barnes. I think that 4th spot is usually, it's not totally irrelevant, but in the way it is, I think I do want to start with the 230 guy. I'm just trying to pick the best one. And whether or not that's Hotwood for the Knights, or I'm kind of leaning, I was listening to the one with you and Wilf, like to someone like Takura.
Like I've got Takura at the moment.
Yeah, I'll see who gets named, and basically I'd rather pick a younger guy that, you know, is in a winning side, that, you know, also with this new rule, like, you know, you want the hooker to crash play him over the line, like, you know, them to have some, like, I know Royce Hunt pulled out that double last year, but you just couldn't do it. Like, you couldn't do it from the start. Like, there could be a point where you go, oh shit, maybe, but then would you want to waste a trade on your 4th front rower? Like, I'm sure anyone that had him last year has major PTSD, and that'll be the reason why he's not coming to your side. Won't be coming.
I have nightmares about Royce Hunt still. And
I didn't even live the
nightmare. And then I have nightmares
it.
about my nightmares because I think about him chasing me down because of what I said about him in SuperCoach, and you know it gets even scarier. But Royce Hunt, I tell you what's a better option. Enough. I would rather put a dual position front row forward, second row forward, enough at base price in that spot, because I definitely wouldn't like to spend on 4 front rowers. And by spending, I mean like if you're going to go like Flegler and Colquhoun as your bench front rowers, it's like the better part of $700,000 on those 2 bench front rows, but it's too much money.
Plus Payne Haas, and then depending if you've got a second gun.
It's too much, but, you know, Takura is an option, but certainly I wouldn't be scared of if you've got, say, a Hopgood in the second row or somebody like that that's a dual, or even Colquhoun in the second row, if you've got that sort of build, you could have enough there as the only guy not playing in your squad of 26, and it's totally fine. It's the best place to put it.
Well, at 6%, Ethan Roberts from the Tigers must be very popular.
He might get a run this year. That's the
thing is now with the 19-man squads, if you are going to take enough, you prefer to take one that's injured. Because one that doesn't have a risk of becoming an AE nightmare, because now you've got more of a choice. The teams have more of a choice. So that is the only thing, if you are going to start with enough. But like I said, I probably would prefer to start with someone that might have a chance of playing. But
if you've got a guy that might have a chance of scoring like Takura, because he's got that sort of bit of X factor upside like a young Willison had, you can start to get some money pretty quickly.
Payne Haas is leaving, and they're going to need to start, developing these younger guys. So I like all the factors that go into it. Like, I'm not saying that this guy's going to start playing minutes. It's just the fact in the low minutes that fourth spot's going to get. You want to have the potential upside to, maybe make 100K to then flip it down to enough later to then at least make something out of that fourth position.
Well, when we digress to being degenerates and talking about Royce Hunt and Nuffs for too long, you know what time it is. It is time to end the podcast. Mikey, thank you very much for jumping on and talking Tigers with me. Really appreciate it, mate. And we'll get you back on in the next couple of weeks. Everyone else, thanks very much for listening. Make sure that you do subscribe. You can watch us on YouTube and subscribe there. And you can also do the same on iTunes and Spotify if you prefer just the audio versions of the podcast. And make sure that you follow us on all of social media. We are on X, on Facebook, and also on Insta. Thanks very much for listening. I really appreciate all the support so far in the show. We'll be back again in the next few days to do another podcast for another team preview. Until then, have a great time working out your SuperCoach sides, watching the finals. I can't wait to talk all about it again real soon.
You'll never know if you don't go. You'll never shine if you don't glow. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get